The bridge of the UES Vengeance hummed with quiet efficiency as Captain Jake Morrison reviewed the latest patrol reports. 3 months of routine sweeps along the outer rim had yielded nothing more interesting than asteroid miners and the occasional smuggler. The crew was getting restless, and Morrison could feel it in the way conversations died when he entered a room. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks looked up from his console, his face creased with confusion. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the emergency frequency." Morrison moved to the communications station where the signal analyzer displayed a weak but persistent transmission. The encryption was military grade, but the origin point made him frown. "That's coming from Kepler 442b. What would the Zilani need with military encryption?" "Unknown, sir, but the signal is definitely human in origin. The encryption matches our diplomatic corps protocols." Brooks adjusted several controls and static filled the bridge speakers. After several minutes of filtering, a voice emerged from the noise. It was female, desperate, and unmistakably human. "This is Dr. Lisa Carter, xenobiologist attached to the Zilani Research Station. Emergency protocols are in effect. The Hegemony Empire has invaded our system. They arrived 6 days ago with a full battle fleet." Morrison felt his blood turn cold. The Zilani were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful healers. Their entire species had evolved without predators on their homeworld, leaving them completely defenseless. They possessed no military, no weapons technology, and their entire culture was built around helping others. The transmission continued. "Initial bombardment targeted all orbital facilities and communication arrays. Ground forces landed 12 hours later. They are not taking prisoners. Repeat, they are not taking prisoners. This appears to be a systematic extermination operation." Commander Alex Rodriguez appeared at Morrison's shoulder. "Sir, the Zilani population on that world is over 2 million. If this is genocide, it is." Morrison's voice was flat. "Keep recording everything." Dr. Carter's voice crackled through more static. "The hegemony forces are establishing processing centers throughout the major cities. From what I've observed, they appear to be harvesting organs and selling adults into slavery before execution. The young and elderly are being killed immediately." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems. Morrison had served in 3 border conflicts, but this was different. The Hegemony Empire was known for its brutality, but attacking the Zilani was like burning down a hospital. "They don't know I'm alive. My research station was in the deep caves when they arrived. I've been monitoring their communications and troop movements. Captain Morrison, if you're receiving this, you need to understand something. This isn't conquest. They're treating the Zilani like livestock." Morrison closed his eyes. The Zilani had no concept of war. Their language didn't even have words for murder or hatred. When humanity first made contact with them 50 years ago, the gentle insectoids had immediately shared their advanced medical technology freely with all species. Current population estimates suggest they've already killed over 300,000 civilians. At this rate, the entire species will be extinct within 2 weeks. The Galactic Council has been notified, but you know how long their response protocols take. Rodriguez spoke quietly. "Sir, by the time the Council authorizes a response fleet, there won't be anyone left to save." Morrison nodded grimly. The Galactic Council was a bureaucratic nightmare that required months of committee meetings before authorizing military action. They were designed to prevent wars, not stop genocides in progress. I'm transmitting all tactical data I've gathered on hegemony positions and strength estimates. They have approximately 200,000 ground troops supported by orbital bombardment platforms. Their commander is Admiral Zektar, and he's broadcasting execution schedules like they're shipping manifests. The tactical display updated with Dr. Carter's intelligence data. Morrison studied the numbers with growing anger. The hegemony had brought enough firepower to conquer a dozen worlds, all focused on slaughtering a species that couldn't fight back. "Captain, I know this isn't Earth's fight officially, but someone needs to help them. The Zilani saved my daughter's life 3 years ago when she contracted Rigel fever. Their doctors worked for 6 months to develop a treatment, and they refused any payment. They said helping others was payment enough." Morrison made his decision. "Brooks, get me a secure channel to Admiral Kate Sullivan at Earth Command. Rodriguez, start plotting jump coordinates for Kepler 442b. Helm, begin preparations for combat operations." "Sir?" Rodriguez looked uncertain. "We don't have authorization for military action outside human space." "We will." Morrison's voice carried absolute certainty. And if we don't, we'll do it anyway. The connection to Earth Command took several minutes to establish. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen, her expression already grim. Jake, please tell me you're not about to ask for what I think you're about to ask for. Kate, the hegemony is committing genocide against the Zilani. Complete extermination. We need immediate authorization for military intervention. Sullivan was quiet for a long moment. Jake, you know the political situation. The hegemony has trade agreements with half the council species. If we intervene unilaterally, it could start a war. Admiral, they're killing children, harvesting organs from sentient beings. If we don't act, an entire species dies, and the galaxy learns that Earth won't protect the innocent when it's inconvenient. The council will authorize a response eventually. In 3 months. Maybe 6 if the hegemony lawyers get involved. There won't be any Zilani left by then. Morrison could see the conflict in Sullivan's eyes. She was a good officer, but she was also a politician now. Jake, I can't authorize an attack on hegemony forces without council approval. The consequences? Then don't authorize it. Morrison's voice was steady. But Admiral, I should inform you that Captain Elena Vasquez left her patrol route 2 hours ago. The UES Fury is en route to Kepler 442b. Captain Tyler Murphy reported engine problems with the UES Reckoning, but somehow he's heading in the same direction, and Major Sam Torres filed a flight plan that will coincidentally bring the UES Retribution to the same system. Sullivan's eyes widened. Jake, you can't be serious. Admiral, it seems like half of Earth's fleet is developing sudden mechanical problems or navigation errors that require immediate attention in the Kepler 442b system. Completely coincidental, of course. For the first time in years, Sullivan smiled. You realize I'll have to court-martial all of you when this is over? Yes, ma'am. But first we're going to save the Zilani. God help us all. Sullivan cut the connection. Morrison turned to his bridge crew. You heard the Admiral. We're going to be court-martialed for this. Anyone who wants to transfer to another ship can do so now. Nobody moved. Rodriguez spoke for all of them. Sir, the Zilani taught us how to cure cancer. If we let them die without lifting a finger, we don't deserve to call ourselves human. Morrison nodded. Then let's go remind the galaxy why you don't mess with Earth's friends. The jump to Kepler 442b took 18 hours, and every minute felt like an eternity to the crew of the UES Vengeance. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the tactical display as 3 other human ships materialized from hyperspace almost simultaneously. The UES Fury, UES Reckoning, and UES Retribution had all arrived within minutes of each other, forming a loose formation around Morrison's vessel. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks was hunched over his sensor array, his face pale in the blue glow of the displays. Captain, I'm reading massive hegemony presence in system. 47 capital ships, over 200 support vessels, and what looks like a full planetary occupation force. Morrison felt his jaw clench. The hegemony had brought enough firepower to level entire star systems, all focused on a world inhabited by peaceful healers who had never harmed anyone. Any word from Dr. Carter? Receiving her signal now, sir. She's still alive and transmitting from the cave system. Brooks adjusted his controls and the familiar voice filled the bridge. Human fleet, this is Dr. Carter. Thank God you came. The situation has gotten worse since my last transmission. The hegemony is ahead of schedule. They've established 6 major processing centers and are moving civilians through them at an accelerated rate. Morrison grabbed the communication microphone. Dr. Carter, this is Captain Morrison. Can you give us tactical information on their ground positions? Captain, you need to understand what you're facing here. These aren't normal military operations. I've been monitoring their communications for a week now. They're treating this like a business transaction. The Zilani are being processed like livestock. Commander Alex Rodriguez moved to the tactical station where hegemony ship positions were being plotted. Sir, they have us outnumbered 12-1. Even with our technological advantages, those are impossible odds. Morrison was about to respond when Captain Elena Vasquez's voice came through the communication system. Jake, this is Elena aboard the Fury. I've been listening to the hegemony command frequency. You need to hear this. The bridge speakers crackled as an alien voice speaking heavily accented Galactic Standard filled the air. The voice was cold, mechanical, completely devoid of emotion. Processing Center 7 reports completion of Sector 12. Total yield 15,000 units. Organ harvest successful on 60%. Remaining units terminated as scheduled. The bridge fell silent. Units. They were calling living intelligent beings units. Morrison felt something cold settle in his stomach. A rage so pure it frightened him. Dr. Carter's voice returned. That was Admiral Zektar, the hegemony commander. He's been broadcasting these reports every 6 hours like they're shipping manifests. Captain, the Zilani population was 2.3 million when this started. Based on their processing reports, fewer than 400,000 are still alive. Brooks looked up from his console. Sir, I'm detecting movement in the hegemony fleet. Looks like they've noticed us. The main display shifted to show the massive hegemony formation beginning to turn toward the human ships. Even at this distance, the alien vessels looked menacing with their dark hulls and weapon arrays that bristled like thorns. Human vessels. This is Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony Empire. You are trespassing in occupied space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Morrison picked up the microphone again. Admiral Zektar, this is Captain Morrison of the Earth Fleet. We're here to discuss your unauthorized military actions against a peaceful species. There was a pause. Then harsh laughter came through the speakers. Discuss, little Deathworlder. You are facing the might of the Hegemony Empire. Your 4 small ships are insignificant. Leave now and we will allow you to retain your lives. Captain Tyler Murphy's voice cut in from the UES reckoning. Jake, I'm picking up energy signatures from the planet's surface. They're using orbital bombardment to force civilians into the processing centers. Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. Somewhere below, gentle beings who had spent their entire existence helping others were being herded like animals toward slaughter. The Zilani had no concept of violence, no understanding of why anyone would want to hurt them. Admiral Zektar, we are prepared to offer terms for your immediate withdrawal from this system. More laughter came through the speakers. Terms? You amuse me, human. We are aware of your species. You are primitives from a dangerous world. But you are still just primitives. This system belongs to the hegemony now. Dr. Carter's transmission cut in again. Captains, I need to tell you something else. I've been documenting everything I've seen here. The hegemony soldiers aren't just killing the Zilani. They're enjoying it. I watched them force families to watch as they executed the children first. Rodriguez gripped the edge of his console. Those sick bastards. Morrison felt the last of his restraint disappear. Around him, he could see the same transformation happening to his crew. The quiet professionalism was being replaced by something harder, colder, infinitely more dangerous. Major Sam Torres's voice came from the UES Retribution. Jake, I've got teams ready for boarding operations. Just give the word. Admiral Zektar, Morrison said into the microphone, his voice perfectly calm. I'm going to make this very simple for you. You have exactly one opportunity to withdraw your forces from this system immediately. Or what, primitive? You will attack us with your 4 tiny ships? We have studied your species. You are nothing but aggressive animals from a harsh world. You have no understanding of real warfare. Morrison looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were human faces, shaped by millions of years of survival on a world that had tried to kill them every single day. They were the faces of apex predators who had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to hunt, to fight, to protect their own. Dr. Carter, you might want to find deeper cover. Things are about to get very loud. Understood, Captain. Give them hell. Morrison opened a channel to all 4 human ships. All vessels, this is Morrison. You've all heard the intelligence reports. You know what these animals have done to the Zilani. As of this moment, we are no longer bound by rules of engagement. There will be no prisoners taken, no quarter given, no mercy shown. Captain Vasquez's voice was ice cold. Understood, Jake. Weapons are hot and ready. Morrison turned to face the tactical display where the hegemony fleet was moving into attack formation. Admiral Zektar, you made one critical error in your assessment of humanity. And what is that, primitive? You assumed we were the animals. Morrison's voice carried across all frequencies. You're about to learn the difference between predators and prey. The first shots came from the hegemony fleet when Admiral Zektar decided the humans were taking too long to retreat. Energy beams lanced through space toward the 4 human ships, but they struck nothing but empty vacuum. The human vessels had already moved, their superior engines allowing them to dance between the massive hegemony battleships, like wolves among cattle. Captain Jake Morrison watched his dumb, tactical display as the enemy formation spread out to try to contain the human ships. Brooks, target their command vessel. Let's introduce Admiral Zektar to human engineering. The UES Vengeance unleashed its main guns, sending kinetic projectiles accelerated to near light speed toward the hegemony flagship. The alien shields flared and held, but Morrison could see the energy readings fluctuating wildly. Their shields are strong, but they're designed for energy weapons. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks reported. Our kinetic rounds are causing massive power drain. Captain Elena Vasquez's voice crackled over the communication system. Jake, I'm going to try something. Give me covering fire. Morrison watched as the UES Fury suddenly accelerated toward the planet, using the moon's gravitational field to slingshot around it at incredible speed. When she emerged from behind the lunar mass, she was moving fast enough that her kinetic rounds struck the hegemony ships like hammers of God. 3 enemy vessels simply ceased to exist, their hulls unable to withstand the impact of metal moving at such velocities. The hegemony formation wavered as their commanders tried to understand how such small ships could hit so hard. Admiral Zektar's voice filled the communication channels, no longer amused. Impossible. How are you primitives doing this? Major Sam Torres answered from the UES Retribution as his ship disappeared from hegemony sensors entirely. Human stealth technology was decades ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. You called us primitives, Admiral. Let me show you what primitives can do. The Retribution reappeared inside the hegemony formation, its boarding pods already launching toward the nearest capital ship. Torres had trained his Marines for years in zero-gravity combat, and they moved through the enemy vessel like ghosts. Within minutes, the hegemony ship was dead in space, its crew eliminated with surgical precision. Captain Tyler Murphy brought the UES Reckoning up from below the orbital plane, his weapons targeting the hegemony ships, providing orbital bombardment support to the ground forces. This is for every Zilani child you murdered, he said quietly as his guns spoke. The orbital bombardment platforms died in flowers of flame, their crews never understanding how the humans had flanked them so completely. Murphy's ship moved like a predator, striking and fading before the hegemony could respond. Morrison opened a channel to Dr. Carter on the planet's surface. Doctor, what's the status of the processing centers? Captain, they're accelerating the executions. They know you're here and they're trying to kill as many Zilani as possible before you can stop them. Morrison felt his blood turn to ice. The hegemony was committing genocide faster, because humans had arrived to stop them. All ships, new priority. We need to get troops on the ground immediately. Commander Alex Rodriguez was coordinating with the other ships when his console lit up with new contacts. Sir, massive reinforcements jumping in. Looks like the hegemony called for backup. 50 more enemy ships materialized at the edge of the system, their hulls dark against the stars. Admiral Zektar's laughter filled the communication channels again. Now you see the true power of the hegemony, primitives. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing impossible odds, then smiled coldly. Torres, how many boarding pods do you have left? Enough to make this interesting, Captain. Vasquez, can you repeat that slingshot maneuver? Already plotting the course, Jake. Murphy, think you can handle orbital support once we clear the way? Just point me at them, Captain. Morrison opened a channel to all 4 human ships. Gentlemen, lady, we're outnumbered 15-1 now. The odds are impossible, the enemy is ruthless, and innocent people are dying while we waste time up here. He paused, looking around his bridge at faces that showed no fear, only determination. In other words, it's Tuesday. Let's show these animals why humans don't lose. The human ships moved as one, their coordination perfect despite having no time to plan. The UES Fury accelerated toward the moon again, while the Retribution vanished from sensors. The Reckoning dove toward the planet, and the Vengeance charged straight at the hegemony flagship. Admiral Zektar watched his sensors in confusion as the human ship seemed to ignore all tactical logic. What are they doing? This is madness. The answer came when Vasquez emerged from her second slingshot maneuver with enough velocity to punch through the shields of the hegemony flagship. Her kinetic round struck the command bridge directly, and Admiral Zektar's voice cut off mid-sentence. Torres reappeared behind the reinforcement fleet, his boarding pods already spreading like seeds among the enemy ships. Human Marines poured into hegemony vessels, and one by one the alien ships went dark. Murphy reached the planet's atmosphere and began systematically destroying every hegemony installation he could find. His precision strikes avoided Zilani population centers while eliminating the processing centers with extreme prejudice. Morrison brought the Vengeance into knife-fighting range with the enemy fleet, his weapons firing continuously. Human ships were smaller and faster, but they hit like meteors and moved like lightning. Dr. Carter's voice came through the communication system, filled with wonder. "Captains, I can see the explosions from here. The hegemony ground forces are panicking. They're abandoning their positions." "Not all of them," Morrison replied grimly. "Brooks, are you reading any hegemony troops still near Zilani populations?" "Yes, sir. Several concentrations are holding civilians as shields." Morrison's expression hardened. "Then we go down there and settle this personally." Rodriguez looked up from his console. "Sir, the remaining hegemony ships are trying to retreat. Let them go. The ones that matter are on the ground." Morrison turned to address his crew. "Prepare for planetary assault. We're going to finish what we started." The 4 human ships turned toward Kepler 442b, leaving burning wreckage in their wake. In space, the hegemony had learned that numbers meant nothing against superior technology and tactics. On the ground, they were about to learn something far worse about human nature. The dropships launched from the 4 human vessels like angry hornets, their hulls glowing red-hot as they cut through Kepler 442b's atmosphere. Captain Jake Morrison led the assault in the first wave, his tactical display showing hegemony positions scattered across the planet's surface. Most of the alien forces had retreated to fortified positions around the remaining processing centers where they held Zilani civilians as human. Shields Colonel Matt Stevens coordinated the ground assault from his command ship as it touched down in a clearing 2 kilometers from the largest processing center. "All units, remember your training. The hegemony expects us to hesitate because of the civilians. They're wrong." Major Sam Torres emerged from his dropship with a squad of Marines, their armor black as night and designed for close quarters combat. "Stevens, my teams are in position around Processing Center Alpha. I count approximately 300 hegemony troops using about 800 Zilani as shields." Dr. Lisa Carter's voice crackled through the communication system from her hidden position. "Colonel Stevens, you need to understand the layout of these facilities. The hegemony has the Zilani in the central courtyard, while their troops are positioned in the surrounding buildings. They think this makes them untouchable." Sergeant Amy Collins set up her sniper rifle on a ridge overlooking the facility, her scope already tracking hegemony soldiers through the windows of the guard towers. "Stevens, I have clear shots on the outer sentries, but the main force is dug in deep." Morrison studied the tactical situation through his helmet display. The hegemony had chosen their positions well, knowing that most species would never risk civilian casualties. But they had made one critical error in their understanding of human nature. "All teams, execute Operation Scalpel. We go in surgical." Collins' rifle spoke first, its silent electromagnetic round taking out a hegemony sniper at 800 meters. Before the alien's body hit the ground, she had already shifted to her next target. One by one, the outer guards fell without ever knowing they were under attack. Torres led his Marines in a flanking maneuver that brought them to the rear of the facility. The hegemony had expected a frontal assault and left their back door lightly defended. Human soldiers moved like shadows through the building, eliminating enemies with knives and silenced weapons. Commander Alex Rodriguez coordinated the assault from his position with the second wave. "Morrison, we're reading hegemony communications. They're demanding to negotiate." Morrison checked his weapon as his dropship touched down near the facility's main entrance. "What are their terms?" "They want safe passage off-planet in exchange for releasing the Zilani." Morrison's laugh was cold as winter. "Tell them the time for negotiation ended when they started murdering children." Torres, status report. "Building secured, Captain. We control everything except the main courtyard where they have the civilians." Morrison could see the tactical situation clearly now. The hegemony commander had gathered all remaining forces in the central area, using the terrified Zilani as a living wall between his troops and the advancing humans. It was a desperate move by someone who finally understood the situation he was in. Dr. Carter's voice came through the communication system again. "Captain, I can see the courtyard from my position. The hegemony soldiers are getting nervous. They're pointing weapons at the Zilani and threatening to execute them if you advance." Morrison moved to the edge of the courtyard where he could see the scene with his own eyes. 300 hegemony soldiers had formed a defensive circle, using 800 Zilani civilians as cover. The aliens held energy weapons pointed at the gentle insectoids while their commander shouted demands for safe passage. "Human forces, this is Commander Vectal of the hegemony ground troops. We are prepared to execute these animals if you do not withdraw immediately." Morrison stepped into view, his weapon lowered but ready. Commander Vectal, I'm Captain Morrison of Earth Forces. I have a counter-offer. You are in no position to make offers, human. We hold all the leverage here. Morrison smiled, and something in that expression made several hegemony soldiers step backward. You think holding civilians makes you safe from us? That's your second mistake today. What was our first mistake? Coming here at all. Morrison raised his hand and the world exploded into precisely coordinated chaos. Collins and her sniper teams opened fire from their concealed positions, their shots threading between Zilani civilians to find hegemony targets with impossible accuracy. Torres and his Marines stormed the courtyard from 3 directions simultaneously, their movement so fast that the aliens could barely track them. The hegemony soldiers tried to use the Zilani as shields, but human precision training proved its worth. Every shot found its mark without touching a single civilian. The aliens had expected brutal human tactics, but instead they faced something far worse. Perfect human precision. Commander Vectal raised his weapon toward a group of Zilani children, but Morrison was already moving. The human captain crossed 20 meters of open ground in seconds, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to reach the alien commander before the trigger could be pulled. The confrontation lasted exactly 3 seconds. When it was over, Commander Vectal was dead, and Morrison was helping a terrified Zilani child to safety. Dr. Carter emerged from the cave system as the last hegemony soldier fell. She moved immediately to the injured Zilani, her medical training taking over as she began triage operations. Captain, we need to get these civilians to medical facilities immediately. Many of them have been tortured. Morrison looked around the courtyard where his soldiers were helping Zilani survivors to safety. The gentle insectoids were clearly traumatized, but they were alive. Torres, what's the status on the other processing centers? All secured, Captain. We have approximately 1,200 Zilani survivors in total. The medical teams are setting up field hospitals now. Colonel Stevens approached Morrison with a grim expression. Sir, we found the records of what they did here. The hegemony processed over 1.8 million Zilani through these facilities. Morrison felt the weight of those numbers settle on his shoulders. An entire civilization had been nearly wiped out by creatures who saw intelligent beings as nothing more than resources to be harvested. Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the surviving hegemony fleet. They're requesting permission to retrieve their ground forces. Morrison looked at the bodies of hegemony soldiers scattered throughout the facility, then at the Zilani survivors being treated by human medics. Tell them there are no ground forces left to retrieve. 3 weeks after the last hegemony soldier fell on Kepler 442b, Captain Jake Morrison stood in what had once been the planet's capital city. Human engineers worked alongside Zilani survivors to rebuild the structures destroyed during the invasion. The gentle insectoids moved slowly, their trauma still evident in every careful step they took. Dr. Lisa Carter approached Morrison with a medical report in her hands. Captain, the final casualty numbers are in. Of the 2.3 million Zilani who lived on this world, we managed to save 1,247 individuals. Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. Over 2 million innocent beings had died before Earth's children could reach them. The number felt like a physical weight pressing down on his chest. The survivors are responding well to treatment, Carter continued. Physically, most will recover. Psychologically, it will take much longer. They've never experienced anything like this in their species' history. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks joined them, his communication equipment showing incoming messages from across the galaxy. Captain, the news of what happened here has spread throughout known space. We're receiving responses from dozens of species. Morrison took the communication pad and scrolled through the messages. Most were expressions of shock and horror at the hegemony's actions, but several made his blood run cold. 3 different species had sent congratulations to the hegemony for efficient resource management before learning the operation had failed. Sir, Admiral Kate Sullivan is requesting immediate communication with you. She says it's urgent. Morrison activated the long-range communication system, and Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the display. Her expression was grim, but Morrison could see something else in her eyes. Pride. Jake, the Galactic Council has been in emergency session for the past week. Half the species are demanding Earth be censured for unauthorized military action. The other half are quietly asking about defense agreements. Morrison was not surprised. What's Earth's official position? President Martinez addressed the council yesterday. He made it very clear that Earth considers the protection of peaceful civilizations to be a fundamental human value. Any species that commits genocide or enslaves innocent populations will be considered hostile to human interests. Commander Alex Rodriguez appeared at Morrison's shoulder. Admiral, what exactly does that mean in practical terms? Sullivan's smile was sharp as a blade. It means Earth is establishing a new doctrine. We're calling it the Zilani precedent. Any species that preys on the defenseless will face the full response of Earth's military, regardless of galactic politics. Brooks looked up from his communication console. Ma'am, I'm receiving a priority transmission from the Hegemony Empire itself. Sullivan nodded. Put it through. This should be interesting. A new face appeared on the display, an alien with gray skin and cold black eyes. Morrison recognized the uniform of a Hegemony High Commander. I am Supreme Admiral Kexvar of the Hegemony Empire. I speak for our government in this matter. Morrison stepped forward. You're speaking to Captain Morrison of Earth Forces. What do you want? We wish to discuss the recent misunderstanding at Kepler 442b. Our forces there exceeded their authority. We are prepared to offer reparations to prevent further conflict. Morrison felt anger surge through him. Misunderstanding? You murdered over 2 million innocent people. The primitive species served no useful purpose. Their elimination was economically sound. The bridge fell silent. Morrison could feel the rage radiating from every human present. After everything they had seen, the Hegemony still viewed the Zilani as nothing more than resources. Admiral Sullivan spoke first. Supreme Admiral, let me make Earth's position absolutely clear. The Hegemony Empire is now classified as hostile to human interests. Any Hegemony military vessel found in proximity to peaceful civilizations will be destroyed without warning. Kexavar's expression remained unchanged. You threaten the entire Hegemony Empire with your handful of ships? We have thousands of vessels. Morrison stepped closer to the communication display. Supreme Admiral, let me explain something about human nature. We just traveled across the galaxy to save a species we barely knew, because it was the right thing to do. Do you really think we'll hesitate to cross that same distance to punish those who harm the innocent? Your threats mean nothing. The Hegemony is too large for your primitive species to challenge. Rodriguez pulled up a tactical display showing the current positions of Earth's fleets. Sir, perhaps you should know that we currently have 17 battle groups conducting training exercises near Hegemony space. Purely coincidental, of course. Kexavar's confidence wavered slightly. You would not dare attack Hegemony core worlds, Sullivan answered with ice in her voice. Try us. The communication ended abruptly as the Hegemony commander cut the connection. Morrison turned to see Dr. Carter approaching with several Zilani survivors. The insectoids moved carefully, still afraid after everything they had endured. One of the Zilani, an elder named Clicktar, approached Morrison directly. The translator rendered his clicking speech into Galactic Standard. Captain Morrison, my people wish to know why humans came to help us. We had no agreement with your species. No trade arrangements, no military alliance. Morrison knelt down to bring himself to the Zilani's level. Because someone had to. Because leaving innocent people to die when you have the power to save them isn't something humans can live with. Clicktar's antennae twitched and what Morrison had learned was confusion. But this makes no logical sense. You gain nothing from helping us. You risked your lives and your ships for strangers. Carter smiled sadly. That's exactly why they did it. Humans don't help others because it makes sense. They help because it's right. Brooks looked up from his console again. Captain, I'm receiving messages from 12 different species requesting meetings about defense agreements. And sir, 3 more species have announced they're withdrawing from all trade agreements with the Hegemony. Morrison nodded. The galaxy was learning that there were consequences for genocide. What about the Council's response to our actions? Mixed, sir. But there's something interesting. The Rigelian Confederacy just announced they're adopting what they're calling the human standard for intervention in genocidal conflicts. Morrison felt a grim satisfaction. One species had already decided to follow Earth's example. Perhaps the galaxy could be taught that evil only triumphed when good people did nothing. 6 months later, Morrison stood in the same spot where the Zilani capital had been rebuilt. Human and Zilani children played together in parks that had been killing fields. Dr. Carter had established a permanent medical research facility, and Earth maintained a small but visible military presence. The message was clear to every species in the galaxy. This world was under human protection. Anyone who threatened it would face the same fate as the hegemony forces who had learned too late that mercy sometimes required the complete absence of mercy toward those who would deny it to others.